Hello! Now that it's getting close to spring, I thought it would be fun to do a cute little spring bunny. The website that I got this template from is in the description box below if you want to print it out yourself. When you do this, you have two options. Your first option is to make a Zentangle Bunny. When you do this, make sure that you use a different pattern in each box and you're careful to stay within the lines on the template. Your second choice is to do lines. With this one, you also want to stay within the lines on the template, but you want to make sure that each line doesn't match up exactly. That's going to give you a little more interest and make it look more like fur rather than just drawing lines with a ruler. Let's get started. I've finished the lines on my bunny. I think that my preference would be to darken up the lines a little bit to cover any spots where I feel like I've made an error or the line doesn't quite connect. You don't have to do this. This is your choice. Once I've done that, I'm going to cut out around the outside of my bunny and then we'll come back for the next bit. I've cut out my bunny and put him off to the side, and now it's time for me to make the background. There are three different choices you have for making the background. We're using watercolor paints for all of them. Because it's spring, I'm going to use light colors. I'm using purple, green, and blue. When you make the background, you can choose the technique wet on wet, wet on dry, or watercolor and salt. The first one we're going to look at is wet on wet. I'm going to get my whole page wet with just water before I start painting. This is going to give me a really soft look. Wet on dry is what you would normally do. I'm not going to show you this technique until it's finished. My last one is wet on salt. Let's get started. For my salt and watercolor technique, I'm only going to use one color. I want to make sure that I have enough water and paint down on my page so that the salt sticks when I sprinkle it over. It's just normal table salt. Let me show you how it looks. There's a lot of liquid on my paper, so I'm going to leave it to dry right where it is. Once it's dry, we can come back and brush off any of the extra salt, and you can see what it's done to the paint. Everything is all dry and we're ready to add our bunny rabbit to our background. So the background that I have here is the wet on dry technique, which is our normal painting on just dry paper. You can see that there's a very big difference between that and the wet on wet, which is this one here. Now, I didn't add a lot of flowers into the middle of this one because I know that my bunny is going to cover it, but it's a much softer, sort of hazy looking picture. Our last background that we have is the salt and watercolor. So I've dusted off all of the salt, and you can see that it still leaves this really interesting pattern on there where the paint pooled around the salt. So I'm going to choose my pattern and I'm going to glue down my bunny. So I have my regular bunny, I also have a rainbow bunny, and I have a Zentangle bunny. So I have a bunny for each of these backgrounds. Once I'm done, I'll show you what they all look like, and that's the end. I put my rainbow bunny on my salt background. You can see that the salt doesn't come all the way down to the bottom of the page. I think I would change that next time. I think it would be nice to have it all the way down at the bottom, but I was running out of time because the paint was drying a little too quickly. The next one that I have is the Zentangle bunny. This is the one on the wet on wet background, so it's really soft. And the last bunny that I have is my line bunny on my wet on dry. So this is just paint on the paper. I think next time with this one, I won't go through and do all of these lines. I think I liked him a little bit better when he was just the way he was when we started, but I didn't realize that until I had already started doing the lines. So that's something to know for next time. I would love to see yours when you're done. You can upload them to Teams and I look forward to seeing them.